It's Tuesday, February 27th. I'm your host, Sarah Beal. On today's show, we talk to Consumer Affairs Supervisor Liz Hartsgrove. We talk changes to some parking spaces at Bismore Park and discover Barnstable coming to the Senior Center. Then we'll learn about the upcoming DPW public information meeting regarding a shared use path on Burses Way with Town Engineer Paul Graves. Then finally, we'll check in with Assistant Airport Manager Katie Service. But first, let's get a look at today's top headlines. The town of Barnstable has begun the search for a new chief of police. The position is part of civil service, and the town manager has made the determination to proceed with an internal search. MMA Consulting was hired to ensure the civil service components of the search are followed and will ultimately provide 3 names as finalists for the position. The Barnstable Police Department is an integral part of our community. Therefore, the town would like to hear the community's thoughts on issues facing the town and qualities and characteristics of the person selected to lead our police. Town Manager Mark Ells will be providing some opportunities for community input via meetings in the near future. In the meantime, please visit the Town of Barnstable website at townofbarnstable.us to complete a survey and have your voice be heard. Deadline for survey responses is Friday, March 9th. The Town of Barnstable Department of Public Works will be holding a public information meeting regarding a proposed new shared use path along the west side of Burses Way between Route 28 and Pitchers Way. The proposed shared use path will provide a 10-foot wide paved surface for bicyclists, pedestrians, and individuals using assisted mobility devices or other non-motorized modes of transportation. The new shared use path will connect an existing shared use path on Route 28 with an existing shared use path on Burses Way, north of Pitchers Way, and which continues along Route 132. The meeting will be held Wednesday at 7 p.m., February 28th, at the Barnstable Senior Center. We will learn more about this when we talk to Town Engineer Paul Graves later in the show. The Director of Property and Risk Management for the Town of Barnstable, on behalf of the Town Manager's Office, is selling various surplus parcels acquired through the foreclosure of land through land court for the non-payment of taxes, land of low value, and gifts made in lieu of foreclosure that are located throughout the Town of Barnstable. This solicitation is being conducted in accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws 30B, Section 16, and all sales must be strictly awarded in accordance with the requirements of the request for proposals regarding real property transactions. A public session pre-response meeting will be held on February 28th at Barnstable Town Hall in the hearing room at 2 p.m. to allow the public or any interested parties to ask questions about the process or the properties. More information, including a list of parcels, can be found on the town's website at townofbarnstable.us. Coming up next, Consumer Affairs Supervisor Liz Hartsgrove. Liz, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
We have a couple of great programs that are coming up that we want to talk about. The first thing we want to talk about is the next Discover Barnstable series. It's going to be at the Barnstable Senior Center, and you're going to be talking about parking.
Yeah, it's, again, like you said, Discover Barnstable Winter Series, and parking is going to be doing a handicap presentation in collaboration with the Disability Commission. So this is a new thing that we're diving into, is actually having the commissions and boards and committees and things like that, actually groups of people helping out with discovering Barnstable and what services we offer. So this one's tapping into the actual handicapped Disability Commission's placards and how to use them properly, what not to do, and how parking resources and management actually assists the Disability Commission with compliance all over the town. So this is it's a really interesting presentation that's being put together by Mona Salamonte and the Disability Commission, and I definitely encourage everybody who's available to attend. It's
an important thing. Ever since I've spoke about it with Meryl Blum of the Disability Commission, I've spoken about it with you, I've noticed, you know, parking issues in handicapped spaces since we've kind of talked about it. And I think there's things that, you know, people who are disabled don't know, and there are things that people who aren't disabled don't know. And I think it's important to make sure everyone understands how those parking spaces work, the difference between a regular handicap spot and a van accessible spot. And, you know, why it's important to make sure you're using the spot that's appropriate for you, and making sure that you're not using a handicap spot when you shouldn't be, because there are still people out there, oh, I'm just running in real quick, let me just pull in here, and it's like,
That's right.
You can't do that.
No, and then there's other examples such as parking in the crosshatch mark, where it's actually, that is set aside for people who have challenges, physical challenges, that they need walkers or they need wheelchairs, and they need that room. Yet somebody who forgets that a crosshatch marking area is not inviting a vehicle to park in there. It's crossed out for a reason.
Right.
So, and people who have those challenges, then you add another layer to that challenge where they can't get in or out of their vehicle, and they can't get to the services that they want as equally as we do.
Right.
So that's what parking management is really about, in collaboration with the Disability Commission, is offering this refresher course, really, because we don't, as drivers, we don't get refresher courses and recertifying every 5 years that we renew our licenses. And so we feel that this is really important, that we can do some self-enforcement and just remind people of the rules of the road.
I think education is key. It's important.
It is.
You got to let people know what the rules are, and like you said, we don't have to take a test every 5 years when we get a new license, and the rules change and things change. Things that have changed since I got my license, a while ago.
Me too.
So I mean, it's good to keep people informed about that. So, and it's not just open to the seniors that can come to these Discover Barnstable events. It's open to anyone. They're just being held at the Barnstable Senior Center.
Yeah, and we have the talents of you that are going to be actually filming this presentation, and then we'll be able to put it online for anybody to view. And then even schools can use it, and they can just tap into it. It's a resource.
It's great.
It is good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
The next thing we're going to talk about is that there's going to be a change down at Bismore Parking. You're going to create 9 15-minute waiting spaces.
Yeah, it's like a kiss and ride type of area. So, but that's really what it is, because we observed the last couple of years, and it's not just a couple of years. We had a team of town employees who are affiliated with Bismore on a daily basis. So we had, natural resources, the harbor master, we had DPW, we had my staff there, we had engineering and planning and development, and everybody involved sitting at the table, and even the PD, and we were identifying issues and ways that we could actually resolve some of those issues. What are the solutions to it? And one of them, because there's so much congestion over on the Highline side of Bismore, because of the ferries, and everybody is moving and grooving over there. You've got taxis, you've got buses, you've got school buses coming and shipping, kids over to the islands for sporting events. You've got a lot going on, and there's not enough room to put so many vehicles. So, and a lot of them are just waiting for people to get onto the boat or off the boat, or they're unloading, and then they're saying goodbye to their loved ones, and then they're taken off. So this is something that the town was able to assist in and identify a solution to the congestion. And so we're offering now 15-minute parking spaces, 9 of them, closest to the Highline side, and so it can be used for taxis, and it can be used for Uber or Lyft or any of those share driving. Mom and dads and grandmas and grandpas, aunts, everybody who needs to just park there to pick up or unload, that's what they're there for.
Yeah, and the purpose of this is to kind of free up the other spaces in the area, so it's not someone just being like, oh, I'm just parking here for a few minutes, picking someone up. It's going to free up those spaces for people that are actually going to park there for an extended period of time.
Absolutely, and the other thing is, because there's also, it's an active harbor, so we have boats unloading their shipment into big tractor trailers there. So you get a combination of foot traffic, of cars, of the school buses and tour buses actually pulling into Highline, and then you've got the trailers being unloading the boats. It becomes an absolute nightmare, and there's a huge public safety concern from all of the staff. So we're hoping that this will reduce that congestion and any of the concerns that we've identified.
Wonderful. I love that your department kind of looks at, solutions as opposed to just strictly enforcing things. You look for ways to, change things and make it, more user-friendly. So
absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah, that's what our job is.
Right, exactly. The last thing we're going to talk about is the alcohol compliance meetings. These are for liquor stores and restaurants. You're going to have on-site and off-site ones. These are happening in April. What can you tell us about the alcohol compliance?
It's another educational tool
Yep.
that we're reaching out to our community and letting them know and reminding them of things that they need to be careful about when they have such a responsibility as handling alcohol to the public. And so we do this annually for all of the on-premise and off-premise, so the package stores, restaurants, inn holders, those license holders, they have to have a compliance meeting, and it's basically a refresher course that Officer Gallant and collaboration with myself and Lieutenant Murphy, and we involve the state, the ABCC comes in. Sometimes we have the fire department, health department there building all types of code compliance that reminds them of certain public safety concerns. For example, like even the fire department a couple years ago reminded people of outdoor heaters and that they have to actually be inspected. Things like that could become a liability and a concern for the fire department. And so this year we are going to really focus on a topic, and it's going to be over service. And so, so Officer Gallant has been really diligent in producing something that's going to be quite extraordinary this year, something different, which is really great. I love that. So yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be on April 10th and 11th, and letters and reminders invitations have been actually mailed out to all of the on and off premise license holders.
Wonderful. I think it's really important. So I'm glad that that's happening. And it's, we'll have hopefully Officer Gallant, and she can delve a little bit more into what's going to be discussed.
Yeah,
and,
I would really love that. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thanks, Liz, so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sarah.
My guest today is Liz Hartsgrove. She's the Consumer Affairs Supervisor here in the town of Barnstable. Coming up next, coming up, Assistant Airport Manager Katie Service, but first, Town Engineer Paul Graves. Paul, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to talk about, there's going to be a public information meeting being held this Wednesday at 7 o'clock at the Senior Center, talking about a shared use path that's going in between, it's going to be on Bursa's Way between 28 and 132, and it kind of runs along the same line as Pitcher's Way, but it's not on Pitcher's Way. So let's talk a little bit about that. Maybe you can help me explain to people where this exactly is going to be.
Certainly. Like you said, it'll be on the west side of Barris's Way. That section of Barris's that is north of 28, south of 132. And it will run basically along the outside edge of the DPW fence line. Right.
That's where the DPW trucks, kind of that area is, the water pollution control, the solar array field, along that side. That's where it's going to go.
Yes, and our intent is to have some either natural or added vegetation along that fence for a visual buffer.
Right. So what was the impetus for planning to do a shared use path in this area?
Well, right now it's a gap in the bike path system. There is a bike path on the south side of Route 28, and Massachusetts Department of Transportation, MassDOT, is currently constructing improvements to the intersection of Route 28 and Barris's Way. They're widening Route 28 there, and they're also adding a stub out of a bike path north from 28 along the west side of Barris's Way, basically to the first DPW driveway. And so we will tie into that and continue it north so that it connects with the Route 132 bike path system.
What a wonderful plan. I think that's so great. There's so many people that walk and bike and run in this area, and connecting the two paths that already exist with this shared use path is such a great idea. Shared use path, let's talk a little bit about that, because it's going to be ADA compliant. It's got to be, it has all these parameters that it needs to follow. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Right. We call it shared use path because that's kind of the industry standard for what this is called. I referenced it as a bike path earlier because a lot of people will call it that.
Right.
So it's primarily for bicyclists and pedestrians. Of course, if someone's roller skating or skateboarding, they can use it too.
Wonderful. It's going to be wide enough for wheelchairs and accessible, not motorcycles and not mopeds and things like that, but there are some wheelchairs that are electric that could use this path.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
It's proposed to be 10 feet wide, which studies have shown that when you get that wide, you can have two people walking side by side comfortably, and a bicyclist could pass them, or a person coming the other way in a wheelchair could pass them comfortably. So that's the intent there. And you're right, anywhere where there's a curb, at either end, at the intersections, for example, there'll be ADA compliant ramps that will serve everybody.
Wonderful.
Pedestrians, those using mobility assistive devices, bicyclists, everyone.
Wonderful. So this is a proposed project right now, hoping to get funding from the state. There's going to be the meeting on Wednesday. What's the purpose of the meeting on Wednesday? I mean, I know we're talking about it here, but are people really going to be able to come and get more detailed information about it and kind of give their feedback? Is that the plan of the meeting on Wednesday?
That is the plan. We'll have a short PowerPoint presentation. We'll have some draft plans that people can look at. And we're interested in people's comments about it. Not only because it's a required step for us to seek the state funding, but also with any project of this nature, we want people's feedback so we can make it the best project possible. Right,
exactly. Kind of see what maybe people in the area are looking for as far as this goes. So just to remind everybody, the meeting is on Wednesday. It's at the Barnstable Senior Center. It's at 7 o'clock. Everyone is welcome to come, learn more about the project, give your feedback on the project. Is there anything else about the project you want to let our viewers know before I let you go?
Not really. The only thing I would clarify or potentially clarify, I don't think anyone would think it was at 7 a.m., but it's at 7 p.m.
Oh, yes, correct. 7 p.m.
Just to be sure.
If you show up at 7 a.m. for the DPW meeting, nobody's going to be there yet. Paul, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. My guest today is Paul Graves. He's the town engineer in the Department of Public Works. Katie, thank you so much for joining us today. And before we get into anything that we're going to discuss, I want to say congratulations. The last Airport Commission meeting, they voted to offer you or make you the airport manager when Bud Brialt retires. So that will happen, I think, this summer, correct?
That's correct. Thank you very much, Sarah, for saying that. Yes, Bud is retiring. He's been with the airport for about 9 years now. His last day will be June 28th, and he will be missed tremendously. He's a great person to work with, and he's done a lot for the airport during his time here. He has seen many construction projects, including one of the biggest one that probably had most of the public eye on, which is the brand new terminal and the control tower. So that happened in 2011, I believe. So Bud saw that whole process take place, and of course there's been many, many airfield projects that he has been overseeing through the years, whether it's rehabilitation of our runways or our taxiways. He's been here for a lot of that and looked at ways to get funding for those projects. So he's done a lot in his time here, so he'll be missed.
He will be.
Sure.
He will be for sure, but you're definitely, I'm so happy to know that they've put their support behind you and have you come in as the airport manager. I think that's a wonderful choice. So I'm really looking forward to, the work that you're going to do as airport manager coming up.
Thank you very much. I'm kind of excited about the opportunity. I think the airport itself has a lot to offer. I think one of the biggest things, and this can kind of lead into one of our other discussions, is the fact that the airport, it is an airport. It's aviation, transportation. It is basically the connection for the Cape and the islands for air transportation. We also have Peter Pan bus lines that offer service to and from Boston from the airport. So there's a lot going on here, but aviation in itself, goes through cycles. So the airport really has to look at different ways to have different types of revenue streams that not necessarily associated always with aviation. So we are looking at other avenues to pursue. We're looking at some of the land that we have available here on the airport and looking at other opportunities so that the airport really diversifies its revenue stream, really looks at different ways that it can keep the airport going even when we have these cycles. And the cycle I'm speaking about right now, we have nationwide, there's a huge pilot shortage, and it's really affecting the airport. So we really have to be diligent when we're looking at other opportunities. So look forward to seeing some future opportunities within the next couple of years. Myself and the Airport Commission have been working on a marketing plan for the airport to identify where these other types of revenue streams can come from.
Wonderful. I think, there's been a lot of talk about a lot of the land around the airport, so I know this is going to be a topic of conversation for us for quite a few years, like you said. What I do want to talk about is, I know it's a big thing every year, but JetBlue will be returning to the airport.
Yes, JetBlue will be returning. It's going to be their 5th year. We're very excited. They had a very successful year last season for them. They haven't announced their date of return. We have heard May, we have heard June. So they haven't really come out and said exactly which date they would be coming back to the airport. Typically they run from the May-June time frame until about September-October time frame. They do daily flights except during the beginning of the season and the end of the season, where you might see them maybe doing 4 flights a day. Mm-hmm. But they do fly to and from JFK. We've had quite a few people, businesses within the Cape region, reach out to us in hopes of having even more of a schedule going to JFK. It seems to be an easy route for a lot of people who either want to just go to New York for a long weekend or going to New York for business. So I've actually had quite a few business folks here within Barnstable and within the Cape reach out to me and say, hey, is JetBlue interested in having any other type of service year-round? Because we need to go to New York on a regular basis for work. So we'll be talking to JetBlue about those opportunities.
Yeah, it'd be great to have the opportunity to leave right from Hyannis and go to JFK, and from JFK you can go anywhere.
Exactly, and that's a good point to make. I mean, if we can have that connection to JFK, if a family wants to fly to Europe from JFK, or they don't feel like going up to Boston or to Providence to deal with the traffic, mm-hmm. then that opportunity is right here at Hyannis, at Barnstable Airport. And we're hoping to expand that service so that people get used to a regular schedule, have the opportunity to perhaps go from here to Florida. That has been a constant comment from many folks mm-hmm. about that opportunity. So we are trying to expand the service. I think really what has to happen is we need to hear from folks that are interested in year-round service to and from Florida, year-round service to and from JFK. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here for this airport to expand its service, and we would definitely like to see that.
Wonderful. We also want to talk about Cape Cod Coffee's been at the airport for about 2 months now, I would say. About 2 months, would you say?
Cape Cod Coffee, actually, I met the owners of Cape Cod Coffee, I have to say in September. It was during the Cape Cod Young Professionals Bash that we held here at the airport. So that was about the end of September. By October, Cape Cod Coffee had moved into our cafe at the airport. So they've been here for quite some time. It's great coming into work and smelling their delicious coffee. We have many meetings where we use their coffee as well. But they've branched beyond just coffee. They are also making donuts here at the airport. They have fresh donuts every day. They are excellent. I think you indicated that you like the blueberry and the chocolate.
Yes.
So they are excellent donuts. They're very tasty. They also have soups and sandwiches during the day. Right now, their hours are 5:30 in the morning till 1 in the afternoon. They are closed on Sundays here at the airport, but they're open 6 days a week. As soon as we start getting our season going and we start seeing more and more traffic at the airport, which is typical for us and typical for a lot of Cape and Islands businesses, as soon as that starts to have an uptick, they'll change their hours. So, just keep an eye on that. One thing that I did want to say that Cape Cod Coffee is adding, one of the things that they said immediately off the bat when they first got here is that outdoor seating would be ideal for the cafe and for Cape Cod Coffee. So last week they went in front of the town to ask for approval for a liquor license that includes an outdoor patio and outdoor seating. So that was approved. So at some point in time you'll see a new patio out there for outdoor seating, but you'll also see Cape Cod Coffee working with their partners such as Cape Cod Beer and Cape and Island Distillery, where they'll sell their partners' alcohol here at the airport.
Wonderful. I know there's a want and a need for that, especially when you have events and things at the airport. It'd be nice to have that, and I know travelers like to maybe have a little something while they're waiting for their flight, and it's a great opportunity. And I love the availability of parking for Cape Cod Coffee. It's so nice. You can go right in, and there's a small parking lot to the right of the terminal for employees, but there's a handful of Cape Cod Coffee spaces there, and it makes it so convenient and so easy. You can just park, go in, get what you need, and come right back out.
Exactly, and we just made a decision to do that as soon as Cape Cod Coffee came on board, because one of the things that was causing a problem was that even though we validated parking, so if you went into the cafe and you got a cup of coffee or you got a sandwich, we would validate your parking so you wouldn't have to pay for parking. But many people approached us and said, it's kind of confusing because everybody thinks, oh, we have to pay to park, I'm not going to go to the cafe.
Right.
You're right, that is not the case anymore. We have parking that's located right next to the cafe. It's free to everybody that's using the cafe. We have 10 dedicated spots for the cafe, but you can use any other spots that do not have a dedicated spot. Just come right in. Feel free to come in and buy some coffee from Cape Cod Coffee, or in the future sit out at their patio and sip a nice beer from Cape Cod Beer or from the Cape and Island Distillery. That's
wonderful. One last thing I want to talk about before I let you go is that the Cape Cod Young Professionals Back to Business Bash is coming back to the airport. I know this is a little ways away, but we want to let people know that it will be returning.
Yes. So we had a very successful 2016 and 2017 event. In 2016, we had over 600 participants, which was phenomenal. In 2017, we upped that by adding an additional 10 outside in the parking lot, so that provided for 900 participants. You'll see about the same amount of participants return for their 12th year here at the airport. It'll be in September again in 2018, and just look forward to that, and I'm sure you'll see more information as we get closer to that date.
Wonderful. Katie, thank you so much for joining us today and updating us on everything that's going on at the airport. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Sarah.
Have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
My guest today is Katie Service. She's the Assistant Airport Manager at the Barnstable Municipal Airport. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be back tomorrow with an all-new show. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Beal.